So last weekend was the new moon of August 23rd, 2025. So a friend and I, we took off to Colfax because there's some old barns and stuff out there out in the Palouse on Thursday after work. And we shot the Milky Way Thursday night and Friday night. It was a little tough going because as it's harvest season out there, just there's so much dust in the air. So during the day, it wasn't too bad, but at night when it was dark, it just created more light pollution than we were expecting. Still got around it. I used my light pollution filter and stuff, and it worked okay, but it took a bit of time in Photoshop to get the photos how I wanted. So I'm going to jump into the videos that I created while we were out there, showing the foreground shots and my star tracker and all that. And then once I get through those, then we will jump into my computer and I'll show you the images that I got. I'm not going to go through all the editing because that would just take way too long. But I want to show you some of the tricks that I used to get the image that I finished with. And so now I'll jump into those videos from the field and then I'll see you back at my computer. So we're here in the Palouse. Got my buddy Idiot Boy over there.
So nobody's gonna watch the video.
Said nobody's gonna watch the video now. We are out here shooting the Milky Way. So right now, I've got the Palouse Knot Farm. This is my foreground. And like I've said in previous videos, I shoot the foreground first because then I go with my tracker and shoot the Milky Way. Because otherwise, all this stuff is just gonna blur out through my camera, so I have to blend the images together. Also, we're going to move to shoot the Milky Way because as you can see, we're kind of right on the road. So we don't want to be out here in the dark and get whacked by a big truck coming through. So we're going to move off here, coming up pretty soon, almost done shooting my blue hour foreground. I'm at 1.3 seconds, F9, ISO 640. Because you do want a little bit of noise in your foreground just to kind of match the sky. So I'm getting a few shots, some vertical, some horizontal, and then that way I'll shoot the Milky Way horizontal and vertical, and I can blend them together. But you can see they're starting to light up the truck, and they have some little lights down in there. So it's like I said, it's right over here. So it's a pretty cool place to shoot. I've never shot the Milky Way out here in the Palouse, so we'll see how it goes today and tomorrow. We're gonna shoot tomorrow too, so we'll find out. So I just moved my composition a little bit and it is getting on to 8:25 and Milky Way's out at I think right around 11:30. TJ's back here being himself. So again, vertical shot. The only problem we're having is there's this black cat roaming around down in the weeds. So TJ is just like, he gets in the way because he loves cats. I don't know why. I'm allergic to them, so I avoid them like the plague.
Cats hate you.
So anyway, we are about done here. We're gonna drive up the road to find the spot to actually pull off so we can shoot the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is gonna come up kind of like behind the barn there. Let me see if I can move over. So kind of like that way. So the Milky Way is gonna be going up the direction that I need it to anyways. But like I said, I just don't wanna stand here. We are literally on the side of the road. And when it gets dark out, people just aren't gonna see us. So we're gonna move up the road a little bit to some pullouts and then get my star tracker set up and do whatever else we need to do, which is pretty much just sit around and wait for another couple hours for the Milky Way to come out. So we'll check in later when we're all set up for that. So we're out shooting the Milky Way. Let me turn a little bit so we can get some better light. You can see I've got my little star tracker here. Let's see, where is it? There you go, right there. It's aligned to the North Star. There's a little polar scope right inside there, aligned to the North Star. And then everything's controlled with my phone, which is really nice. So I've got it at, 1600 ISO, f2.8, and I'm running 2.5 minutes for my exposure time. And then the stars are pin sharp. Usually after I get like, I don't know, 5 or 6 shots, I'll stop it, make sure I'm still aligned to the North Star, because if it's off, your stars are no longer sharp. They start trailing and they get really bad. So we're gonna be out here for a few, I don't know, 30 minutes more, I guess. It's almost 10 p.m. and then get some more shots. I shot my verticals then I'll shoot my horizontals, and then I may try a different lens, maybe my 40mm lens, see how that goes. But anyway, we'll get these shots and then head back to the hotel. So for those of you wondering, this is the star tracker I use. It's the Skywatcher Sky Adventure Mini. So I got the Pro Pack, so it comes with this base and the tracker here and this, and it's got another mount that can replace this. It's got a little polar scope that goes through here, so you can align it with the North Star. And I got it off B&H Photo. I'm not sponsored. This isn't, you know, this is mine. I paid for my own money, so you know, it's. I want to say at the time it was like, I don't know, $350 or something for the whole thing. So it works great. I like using it. I do know there are some smaller ones. I think Move Shoot Move makes one that's even, you know, it's really small. But this one I use, works great, tracks stars really well. It is kind of a pain to align with the North Star, but I think that's just the nature of star trackers. Otherwise, it works very well. So if you're thinking about getting one, I would highly recommend this one. Okay, so now that I'm back from the field and back on my computer, let's go ahead and we'll get onto my computer and I'll show you what we did here. So this image here, that was my foreground from Thursday night. I won't go through Friday night's image. I haven't even dealt with those yet. So this was Thursday night. This is the Palouse Knot Farm, the famous, let's see if I can zoom in here. You know, established 1919, and it's got the old orange truck. So this was the foreground image. And then you know, the black cat that was roaming around ended up not being in my image, so don't have a black cat. This was the image straight out of my infrared camera for the Milky Way. We just drove down the road, I don't know, a mile or two, and there's a nice pull off so we could get off the road and not get whacked by a big truck, because harvest season you get all the semis driving through with all the wheat and the garbanzo beans and whatever else they do out there. But you can see just how much dust was in the air causing all this light pollution. And so just in camera raw, I just changed the tone a little bit. You know, used some dehaze, got rid of some of the yellow. And then I don't know if you guys ever used a program called, it's RC Astro. Let's go in, oh, gotta choose an actual image here. RC Astro, they've got two, the Gradient Exterminator and the Star Exterminator. And after I used the Gradient Exterminator, it went to this. And to just show you how that works, let's go ahead and make another copy. It's just basically as simple as choose the lasso tool, and you come down, you just kind of do a general circle of your Milky Way, come into select, so you want to inverse that. And then there's several options under Gradient Exterminator. You can see the detail, fine, medium, coarse, the strength, high, medium, low. So let's just do a coarse and a high. And we will not balance the background color. And I will show you the difference here. Okay, so that's finished up. So this is, like I said, coarse and high and not balance the background color. So let's get out of that. Just Control Z on the Mac. And now let's do this again. RC Astro, Gradient Exterminator. Let's do the same. Let's do a coarse and high and balance the background color. And now this is what you get. I prefer this a lot better. I don't remember the exact, if I did fine and high or low or whatever, but that's just something you just kind of play around with, figure out, you know, I do it several times. I'll start with like coarse and high, I'll delete the effect, I'll do a medium, and I just kind of go until I figure out what I like the best. Since I already have done that, let's go ahead and get rid of this layer. And then so this was after the Gradient Exterminator. And then I did a few other little corrections. I did a curves adjustment. What I like about using this as Gradient Exterminator is it starts to really show you can see the red over here from this nebula. And you can really start to bring out those colors. And it curves. And then this layer here, this I use, if you go up here to filter RC Astro Star Exterminator, I use that on this layer, and this is just, there's no options. You just click the star exterminator and it just goes about its business, doing its thing. And what this does, if I go up to 100% opacity, you can see there's no stars in the image. If you zoom in, you can see kind of where the stars are supposed to be. And what I like about this one is as I drop the opacity, it'll start to bring in the stars. If I go 0 opacity, it's all the stars. I find stars like this, they're just too distracting for me. I'm not a fan. I don't like all the stars on this side of the Milky Way and all the stars over here on the Milky Way. I think it's just a little too distracting. And so I found on this image, I went to, let's see, about 61%. That way the Milky Way is showing more, you know, you get a little more color of the nebulas, and the external stars just aren't just like, oh, here I am, you know, super vibrant. Then I did another levels. Then I did, you know, another layer. Then I did counterbalance or color balance, just to, you know, get rid of some of the greens and the yellows, kind of getting a little more blue. And then I took this image and then I overlaid it on top of this image. If I come in here, you can see I've got my sky mask, and I just inverted that to my ground. And if you zoom in, you can see it's feathered. And so if I just go to this one here, get rid of that, you can see it's pretty sharp, and it's not all that well done. You can see there's some little spots here and there, like you can see, barely established 1919. And so I went in and cleaned up all of that stuff. And then with that, I was able to come in here. Then, you know, if I turn the mask off, I'll show you an easy way to bring in the Milky Way, so you know where to place it. So basically, if you know, I just place it there because it worked good. But if I get rid of the mask, if you drop the opacity of this layer, you can start to see through it. So obviously I don't want the ground where I shot my Milky Way shot above the edge of the ground in my foreground shot. And so this way I can move it using the, you know, Command T, you know, the move tool, move it up just enough to where the ground of the Milky Way isn't above the ground of the foreground image. Once you get that, then you increase your opacity to, you know, 100%, and then you're good to go. Yes, I realize there's a power pole back there with power lines. It's my image. I got rid of it. Not a big fan. And then from there, I just went through and did some, you know, adjustments, remove chromatic aberration. Because if I zoom in to this, you can see all the chromatic aberration, the yellow, the blue, and so I was able to just get rid of that. And the way I did that was, where am I here? If I come back up to here, let's go back out full screen. Actually, let's stay in close so we can see the chromatic aberration. Up to here. So in this, the Raya Pro has this actions and filters, this FF. Just click clean CA. That's clean chromatic aberration. So I did that, and it does this radius. I usually drop that down because I usually don't need it at 19. So I just go until I start to see some of that chromatic aberration come back, like it is right there. And I'll just I'll increase it again. I think that looks pretty good. Then just click OK. And you can see it comes up with a black mask. And then you just get your brush tool, really big. Just go brush, really big, and it already comes up as, you know, this white on white. Make sure you're on normal mode. And then you just do your whole sky. You just start brushing through it. And so that will kill off a little bit of the color throughout the entire image. But that's why I do this before I start doing any real editing on my color. So now if I zoom in, you can see the chromatic aberration is gone, the yellow, the blue. But let me get rid of that because I already have that layer. And then I just started going through, just doing some Color Effects Pro, you know, kind of bring a little more contrast. What did that do? That was my dodge and burn. And the dodge and burn, basically just come over here to burn tool, shadows, 1%, and I just brush in on the core of the Milky Way. Then I come over to my dodge tool, and 1% on the highlights, come in and brush it in. And then I'm just a little bit of saturation, just kind of bring out this little nebula over here. I did again, just a little bit more. And just to kind of bring that out. I personally like seeing that, the gas of the nebula there. I think it kind of adds to the image. Let me go ahead, let me open up my final image. Then kind of for the last step, I just kind of added more saturation to the image as a whole. Because to me, this one, it was just a little, kind of everything was a little bit too brown. You know, I like the image, but then just by adding saturation everywhere, brings out more red in the barn, more orange in the truck, more green in the trees, more colors in the Milky Way, ended up being my final image. Just a little bit more saturation. One thing you'll notice with my infrared camera, in fact any camera too, you can see my stars are pin sharp in the core, in the center of the image. But as I do move out to the edge, you can see they get kind of a little weird little line, and that's partly because I'm at f2.8, partly because I'm on an infrared camera, so the edges aren't quite as sharp as a visible light camera, but it's still plenty sharp. I have no problem printing this one, you know, 48 by 72. Come down, there is a little bit of grain and noise in the foreground because you can see the grain and noise in the sky. So you want those kind of match. You don't want to like ISO 50 or ISO 100 in the foreground and then, you know, like 1600 or 3200 in the sky. It just looks weird. So add a little noise. If you do it and doing that, you can add noise through Camera Raw or something. So just to kind of give the two a little bit of the same grain look to them. That's the final image. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I went through what star tracker I use. Like I said, it works great for me. I bought it myself. There's a handful of others out there you can use, or you don't need to use one. So that's all up to you. I didn't use one until last year. So anyway, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button. I guess hit my little bell thing, and I'll see you in the next video.